You're watching the news summary on Kazakh TV, review of the major news of the week from Kazakhstan. I'm Jana Sagandikova. Good evening. President of Kazakhstan had a rather busy week, starting with a visit to Ukraine. Nursultan Nazarbayev and Petro Poroshenko have discussed stabilization of the situation in Ukraine. Later, the two presidents talked about restoration of economic ties between the two countries. Kazakhstan is interested in a peaceful settlement in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, as stated by President Nursultan Nazarbayev in Kiev.
Nursultan Nazarbayev has urged his Ukrainian counterpart to jointly find a way out of the crisis. At a bilateral meeting, the sides discussed possible solutions to the current situation and ways to further develop trade and economic cooperation between the two countries.
Обстановка очень сложная. Я со своей стороны поддерживаю все.
The situation is very complicated. I support all the work that is being conducted to solve the problem and stabilize the situation, which is good to no one in eastern Ukraine and any other territory. Having friendly relations with Europe, Russia and Ukraine, I think that we can work on this issue together with you. I hope we will discuss all that is happening in the region and in our country, and we will be able to coordinate our actions in order to prevent people from dying.
Я думаю, вместе с вами мы можем поработать и над этим вопросом.
Искренне благодарен, что вы приняли мое приглашение.
We are happy and I am truly grateful that you have accepted my invitation and arrived in Kiev. I believe that a lengthy break in communication between the leaders of friendly states is unacceptable. I think we have something to talk about and we need to establish a working commission to eliminate all kinds of barriers between our countries.
Должна работать для устранения всяческих барьеров между нашими странами.
President of Kazakhstan stressed the need to restore and further enhance the level of economic relations between the two countries, taking into account the fact that Kazakhstan is widely using Ukrainian agricultural and municipal machinery.
Я приехал в год, когда исполняется ровно 20 лет.
It is symbolic that I arrived this year, as 2014 marked the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation between our countries and establishing diplomatic missions. The fact that our bilateral trade turnover has increased twofold over 3 years between 2010 and 2013, but slipped to 30% this year, is of course unacceptable. This does not affect our relations because Ukraine is an important trade and economic partner for Kazakhstan.
Важный торгово-экономический партнер Казахстана.
Despite the decline in the volume of trade, countries need to find ways to return to previous levels. Therefore, President Nursultan Nazarbayev has noted that the Intergovernmental Commission shall work hard to find common ground. Kazakhstan is ready to supply coal to Ukraine and intends to involve Ukrainian companies in the construction of roads, housing, and implementation of innovative projects. It was noted that countries need a plan of cooperation for the coming years. The question of participation of Ukrainian businessmen in the second five-year plan of industrial program is currently being considered.
В индустриальной сфере, Петр Алексеевич, я сказал вам, что мы ведем индустриальную программу.
We are implementing a program in the industrial sector. Kazakhstan is rich with oil and metals, but we set a course for industrialization. We have built 700 companies over the first years and attracted $15 billion in US dollars of foreign investments and have invested the same amount ourselves. The next 5 years will be innovative. We are providing preferences for participants of this process, corporate and land tax exemption, and return of 30% of investment in the end.
Этого процесса мы обеспечили исключительные преференции. На 10 лет освобождаются от налогов корпоративных и земельных налогов, подводят Казахстан коммуникации, участвует вместе с инвестором, может и полностью инвестор может быть, и 30% инвестиций возвращаем в конце.
The head of Kazakhstan noted that he supports all measures aimed at peaceful resolution of the situation around Ukraine, taking into account that the current situation does not benefit anyone.
Только в условиях мира, стабильности можно творить что-то.
One will be able to create better living conditions only in peace and harmony. What's done is done. One shall remember it.
Подробно, откровенно, по-дружески Петром Алексеевичем обо всем поговорили.
Приезд Нурсултана Бишевича к нам, в Украину.
The arrival of President Nursultan Nazarbayev in Ukraine gave me a feeling of support from the Kazakh side. I sincerely thank you on behalf of Ukraine.
Его молодость. Я чувствую, что позиция поддержки Украины – это совершенно искренняя позиция президента Республики Казахстан и казахского народа. Нурсултан Бишевич, я искренне благодарен вам за это от имени Украины.
In short, the meeting of the leaders of Ukraine and Kazakhstan became quite fruitful. Nursultan Nazarbayev has invited Poroshenko to visit Kazakhstan. On the same day, the president of Kazakhstan met with the Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk.
The talks about Ukraine did not end in Kiev. Nursultan Nazarbayev traveled to Moscow from Kiev to take part in two events of the highest level CSTO summit and the meeting of the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council. Ceasefire in Ukraine was one of the top issues on the agenda of the Collective Security Treaty Organization. Armenia's accession to Eurasian Economic Union from January 1st, 2015 was an important outcome of the meeting. Watch our next story to learn more.
The CSTO countries have also focused on the growing threat of terrorism and the spread of extremism in Central Asia. First of all, given the Afghanistan situation. In addition, Nursultan Nazarbayev, Vladimir Putin, and Alexander Lukashenko have expressed the need of restoration of peace in Ukraine and peaceful settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. During the meeting, President of Kazakhstan welcomed the possibility to work with other organizations beyond the CSTO member states.
ОДКБ открыто для конструктивного взаимодействия.
The CSTO was open for constructive interaction. It acts according to the charter. Decisions that will be made today will strengthen cooperation even more. The efficiency will increase.
Позволит еще более укрепить сотрудничество между государствами-членами ОДКБ в сфере обеспечения безопасности, повысить эффективность деятельности нашей организации.
Another topic that was on the agenda of the CSTO summit was the assistance to Tajikistan in strengthening the Tajik-Afghan border. The country has taken over the chairmanship in the organization. According to Vladimir Putin, the CSTO countries should prepare for preventive measures against the spread of the group Islamic State in Central Asia.
Наш саммит проходит в непростой период. Ситуация динамично меняется в мире.
All changes dynamically. The old problems are exacerbated. New ones appear. The CSTO member states are required to show concerted action to counter terrorism and drug trafficking. The current situation causes concern. There are militias of the so-called Islamic State which threaten to include some provinces of Afghanistan in the so-called Islamic Caliphate. Terrorist groups are trying to extend their activities to Central Asia.
Исламский халифат. Террористические и экстремистские группировки уже пытаются распространить свою активность на Центральную Азию.
Following the meeting, the heads of states signed around 20 documents. They relate to foreign policy coordination within the CSTO, work in the military and military economic spheres, the fight against terrorism, and information security. Further, presidents went immediately to an extended meeting of the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council. Here, Nursultan Nazarbayev, Vladimir Putin, and Alexander Lukashenko announced completion of all procedures to join the ranks of the Eurasian Economic Union by Armenia. Thus, Armenia will become a full member of the Union on the next day after the launch of the Eurasian Economic Union.
С 1 января следующего года вступит в силу договор об Евразийском экономическом союзе.
The Eurasian Economic Union Treaty, which includes Kazakhstan, Russia, and Belarus, Armenia, and Kyrgyzstan, will come into force from the 1st of January next year. For the first time in history, an economic union with a powerful natural and resource potential is being created on the vast territory of Eurasia on a voluntary and equal and mutually beneficial basis. It is strategically important in the global and regional level, transport, energy, and technology system. We have combined our economic potential responding to the challenges of the 21st century. Eurasian Economic Union is created for ordinary people and their interests.
Прежде всего, для простых людей и в кровных их интересах.
Also, the heads of the Eurasian Trio signed a treaty on the accession of Kyrgyzstan to the Treaty on the Eurasian Economic Union. Thus, the official Bishkek, second after Yerevan, will become a member of an economic union. It will happen most likely by May of the next year. But at the same time, Kyrgyzstan will continue to participate in all meetings of the union starting from the beginning of 2015. It also became known about the negotiations on the creation of the free trade zone with Vietnam within the union. It is intended to conclude agreements with Israel, India, and Egypt, and cooperation with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and the Southern Common Market is also planned.
Israeli businessmen request their country to be included in the list of visa-free regime states that Kazakhstan introduced in 2014. It is worth noting that investments of Israeli businessmen this year increased several times, and more investors are interested in doing business in Kazakhstan.
Avi Polarsky has been successfully cooperating with Kazakhstan for some 10 years. His company has built several poultry farms here, and many more projects are being planned. Poultry industry in Kazakhstan is now one of the most developed branches of agriculture. Therefore, Israeli investors prefer to invest in the agricultural industry, especially as conditions are becoming more favorable every year. All they ask now is to simplify the visa regime. The project has its roots here in a small kibbutz in Israel. These drawings show the future poultry farm in southern Kazakhstan with a capacity of about 30,000 tons of poultry meat a year. Despite the fact that most managers have never been to Kazakhstan after having considered all the risks by comparing conditions in different countries, they have come to the conclusion that Kazakhstan is a safe place to invest in.
Мы очень активно работаем на казахстанском рынке.
We are working very hard with Kazakhstan. We see that the market of the poultry industry has great prospects. Today, we realize projects in which our company will partner with investors from South Kazakhstan with a production of up to 30,000 tons.
Полноценным партнером, соинвестором. Речь идет о проекте в Южно-Казахстанской области. Это будет бройлерный комплекс на 30 тысяч тонн с собственным племенным репродуктором.
There were times Kazakhstan had to justify to investors why it was a good place for their investments. Now, the country is already referred to as a gold mine.
Я думаю, что на сельское хозяйство нету нигде в мире.
I believe that today, anywhere in the world, there are no such conditions for agriculture. The Kazakh president's latest address, the programs for 2020 and 2050, open a broad way for businessmen.
Программа 2020, 2050 – это для бизнесменов, как сказать, золотая путь.
The arrival of investors means an additional allocation of budget and introduction of new technologies. For example, Israel is already running a joint laboratory to improve the yield in oilseed crops.
A fish factory in the Sands. New production has been launched on a shore of Lake Balkhash in Moiynkum District of Zhambyl region. It will process up to 1,000 tons of fish. An additional hydroelectric complex was built in the lower reaches of Shu, where water disappears in the Sands in summer, causing flooding in the spring. From now on, the water poses no threat to local residents.
There was always fish in the Balkhash lake. It used to be caught in small and large amounts. Now a team of fishermen with some serious gear is ready for ice fishing. We have bought 18 boats for fishing and 4 for transportation. Fishermen are on the ice all the time. They just throw their catch in the transportation vessels. Then the fish is delivered to the plant for processing. The new plant was built right on the shore of Lake Balkhash. This is an investment project that cost about 600 million tenge. It is planned to process up to 1,500 tons of fish per year. More than 200 people work here. All of them are residents of the neighboring Mineral. A hydraulic structure was also constructed in the lower reaches of Shu. It has long been needed here. In summer, the waters of Shu got lost in the sands, but in the spring posed a real threat, flooding the vicinity. However, local residents will have no problems with flooding anymore. It was a dream for all of us here. Each year we had the same flooding problem. 5 to 6 million tenge was spent from the budget, but we managed to find a way out. We built a hydroelectric complex by the Independence Day of Kazakhstan. 400 million tenge was allocated from the budget to build the hydroelectric complex. It will carry out 3 tasks: strengthening of the riverbanks, protection of local residents from flooding, and clearing the bottom of the river. The most important fact is that it will benefit all. The water would flow in one direction only if there are no floodgates. How can one live without water? We need it, and the livestock needs it as well. A great and useful job has been done. The collected water here can be used by the residents of the entire area. In the spring, excessive water will be accumulated, and in the summer it will be distributed to pastures and grasslands.
Employees of the Transport Control Inspection have seized about 30 tons of cattle hides when violations try to smuggle it out from the Aktobe region. After completion of the Western Europe, Western China project, transit capacity on regional highways shall increase by 3 times in 2014. The number of violators has amounted to several hundred people.
2 heavy trucks were halted on the international highway Samara-Shymkent. Citizens of Ukraine tried to smuggle about 30 tons of cattle hides out of the region. According to the drivers, they were going to Italy. However, they could not leave the country since they had no shipping documents. We have registered a violation of the article number 447, paragraph 1 of the Administrative Code of the Republic of Kazakhstan. An administrative case will be initiated against the car owners while their vehicle will be towed to the auto impound. The owners of the vehicles will have to pay a minimum of 500 monthly calculation indexes in case the cars belong to a company. Transport Control Inspection protects the interests of domestic carriers.
Стоят 7 единиц транспортных средств.
7 vehicles are on the auto impound. All of them are from Ukraine. In accordance with the Code of Administrative Violations, vehicles will remain here until violations and fines are eliminated. The amount of work in the inspection has increased significantly as a result of the mega project Western Europe-Western China transit of foreign cars on the roads in the area has increased threefold, while the international cargo traffic has doubled. Since the beginning of the year, more than 600 violations of foreign and domestic transporters have been registered. Over 372 million tenge was collected in fines and fees to cross through Kazakhstan's borders. 275 vehicles were detained. 151 of them are of domestic makes and 124 are of foreign manufacturers. Experts believe that traffic volumes will only increase. This will be facilitated by the development of transport and logistics infrastructure. For example, after commissioning of the highway Astana-Karabutak that stretches for 708 kilometers, the distance from Aktobe to the capital will be reduced by nearly 600 kilometers, and the planned reconstruction of the road between Aktobe and Aturau will halve the distance.
Pupils at Kostanay have invented an Invarobot. This robot is kind of an automated intelligent helping hand, which is designed to make life easier for people with disabilities. The device is capable of displaying messages for hearing impaired people. All one needs to do is to wear gloves or use a mobile phone. My colleagues met with the young inventors to find out more.
11th grade school students Aidos and Nurjan worked on the project for almost a year. They're indifferent to the problems of people with disabilities. They decided to simplify the movements of the impaired and invented an automated intellectual complex. The young inventors have demonstrated how it works.
Может передвигаться при помощи управления с любого устройства, то есть телефон.
It can move using the controls of any device, phone, smartphone, or computer. It can be tracked on the internet. Not every disabled person can move their wheelchair manually, but this helps them achieve that. The ultrasonic sensor detects obstacles and transmits to the Invarobot to change its course. Additional opportunities are provided for deaf people. Everything that you cannot say, you can write it. The words are displayed on the screen, which is encased in the chair. Deaf people have their own gestures. The person shows a certain gesture and the screen displays the word so that other people will be able to understand them. The automated intellectual complex was developed within frameworks of social project. In the future, they should be given a patent. According to project manager, it is available to produce Invarobots within the area and minimize the costs.
Аналоги, которые не превосходят эту данную научную работу.
Analogs of these inventions do not exceed this scientific work on the cost of $2,500, whereas a real scientific work with all the electronic costs no more than $500. This is not the only invention of the students of boarding school. 33 other projects were presented. 22 of them have won prizes only this year. Each of them is focused on the practical use.
A pilot project of a trilingual interactive self-service infoterminal has been launched in Almaty. Know-how implies infoterminal at the bus stop with a touch screen and Wi-Fi services.
A display built into the outer wall of the newsstand shows how many minutes one has to wait for their bus of choice. This device features various interesting functions. One can learn about the weather forecast and see the exchange rates in 3 languages. It is very convenient for foreign guests of the country because they can choose the English language and get all the information they need. In addition to information about the intervals of public transport, the gadget can tell about the latest news as well as inform the tourist about the best route with all transfers. It is not necessary to write anything down at all. All the information one needs can be sent to a mobile phone or be printed out immediately. It is very convenient for those who do not often travel on these routes, like me. I can learn about the route of any bus, and it is very good that the information is available in 3 languages. The full range of services, including Wi-Fi, is free of charge. One has only to activate the display to get information about the nearest banks, shops, agencies, and local attractions. During the next year, the authors of the project plan to install 50 self-service info terminals in different parts of the city.
Despite the crisis and global financial instability, tourism remains a major source of income for many countries. For example, the ski industry is a promising sector for Kazakhstan. Construction of Kokzhaylao ski resort will begin in Almaty the following year. The facility meets all the demands of modern times. The design stage has been completed, and in 2017, the facility will welcome its first visitors.
A young team, jointly with foreign experts, worked together to make a vacation in the mountains more accessible to all segments of the population, preserve and enhance the natural uniqueness, and build the most modern facility that will attract outdoor enthusiasts from Kazakhstan and other countries. Now they work at creating a ski resort Kokzhaylao in Almaty.
Это уникальный проект, который при поддержке главы государства дает большую возможность для молодежи.
This is a unique project which, thanks to the support of the head of state, gives a great opportunity for young people to express themselves, show skills and international projects, and further develop ski tourism in Kazakhstan. We are very motivated. We are pleased to be working on this project. Design phase of the resort has been completed. Construction will begin in the new year. Infrastructure will be provided by the state. Budgetary investments will create the conditions for investors, both domestic and foreign. Businessmen will be engaged in the guest service, thus providing about 5,500 jobs to the city.
Kokzhaylao is only a small part of the complete vision, because we really believe that Almaty, proximity to the mountain, is what makes Almaty unique, and the future of Almaty is actually Almaty mountains.
Zhambyl Resort has already proved how popular it was and showed good potential of ski tourism in Kazakhstan. Last year, it hosted up to 7,000 people on the busiest of days. Its location is the key to success. The ski resort is located near the city. Experienced entrepreneurs believe that this factor could be used to lure more travelers to Almaty.
Сегодня, являясь только курортом в основном городским, принимая только горожан,
Today, as a city-type resort having mostly Almaty residents, we can see the work at full capacity. Such resorts as the new project Kokzhaylao might even be helpful for us. This will give a multiplying effect that is called synergy. I think that all tourist sites should be developed, and not only ski resorts.
Это даст мультипликативный эффект, что называется, синергию. И не только горнолыжные курорты, я думаю, должны развиваться все объекты туризма.
The city administration supports the idea that all the tourist sites of Almaty must be linked into a single route. The idea is to make such unique facilities as the botanical garden available to travelers. The famous traveler Inge Solheim often visits Almaty. According to him, this is a great place for development.
Your comment on Prince Harry, he is a very close and dear friend of mine, and it was a privilege for me to invite him down here. I am very enthusiastic about this place. It's beautiful. It's a place where we can be active. And of course, we stayed in Almaty, but every day we went up in the mountains because it's so close. Everything is intense and intimate and connected. So for me, it was a privilege to take one of my best friends here, and he is very happy to see this place. And we had a very good vacation.
To pay a visit to Kokzhaylao, home of snow leopards, is a symbolic idea for foreign and Kazakh tourists. Every year, more and more visitors arrive in Almaty. Tourism is an economic sector that keeps many nations afloat. If we talk about Almaty, revenue in the form of tax incomes has amounted to 5.5 billion tenge over the last year.
The country's commemorative banknote with a nominal value of 1,000 tenge was recognized as the best banknote 2014 by the international banknote community. The denomination is dedicated to the monument of Turkic writing called Tegen and has been praised for the design and the unique protection technologies.
Well-known designers Mendebay Alin and Dastan Mashrapov, in cooperation with the banknote factory, worked on its design. Three-dimensional iridescent image of Kultegen is a security element and a replica of the sculpture of the political and military leader of the Second Turkic Khaganate.
Мы очень долго Национальный банк изучали вообще целый культурологический пласт вот этого всего.
The National Bank has studied a cultural layer of the entire period of the ancient Turks. All that we have used here meet all the historical facts, conclusions that are now present in historical science.
Выводом, которые сейчас присутствуют в исторической науке.
The bill features over 20 security elements, and each of them has a secret. For example, the introduction of micro-printing inside the watermarks. This is a know-how of the Kazakh banknote factory.
Банкнота и для нас уникальна, и для мира уникальна.
This banknote is unique for us and for the world. It has unique manufacturing technology and protective properties. Maybe this is not new to the world, but it is a novelty for us. There is a very interesting effect when the banknote is changing with even a small movement.
С очень интересным эффектом при даже небольшом движении банкноты. Здесь двигается изображение.
It is worth mentioning that Kazakh banknotes have been awarded this prestigious title for the third time. The first was the bill with nominal value of 10,000 tenge released for the 20th anniversary of the independence of Kazakhstan. The $5,000 banknote with the image of the monument Eternal Nation on the front side won the title in 2012. In the coming year, the National Bank will release a new bill worth 1,000 tenge.
Kazakhstan is our homeland, says IBRAHIM ARSAMAKOV, an entrepreneur who is in Kush by the nationality. He started his business from a small bakery. Now he has a pastry shop and an auto repair service. IBRAHIM ARSAMAKOV was even awarded an honorary diploma for his contribution to the social, economic and cultural development of Kazakhstan, as well as strengthening friendship and social harmony in the country on Independence Day.
The pastry shop worked in Issyk in Soviet times, but as the Soviet Union collapsed, so did his shop. ARSAMAKOV has renovated the building, gathered workers, and resumed the production. My father told me that the welfare in a family will come from animals and bread. That's why probably I graduated Almaty Veterinary Institute and worked in an animal husbandry. Now I bake bread and try to do as my father says.
Я закончил Алматинский ветеринарный институт и работал в животноводстве. Теперь занимаюсь вот этим хлебом. И стараемся идти, по словам нашего отца.
IBRAHIM ARSAMAKOV's father, together with his compatriots, was repressed to Kazakhstan by Stalin's decree. His brothers and sisters were born in Kazakhstan. He showed the school where he and his children went to study and where his grandchildren study now.
В начале 90-х я, честно говоря, вот этот отрезок, который мы прошли за это.
In the early 90s, I didn't think that we can pass this time so quickly. I thought that this period will last 50, 60 years. It was my opinion. And today, we have passed this piece of time quickly without any disasters.
Отрезок. Вот. Быстро прошли. Прошли безо всяких катаклизмов.
Now the entrepreneur has a bakery, an auto repair service station, and a pastry shop, and a shop where one can buy fresh bread and delicious cookies. Entire families work for the entrepreneur. Masha has acquired her skills here and now can make a piece of art out of any cake.
Папа у нас работает, брат, мы тут как бы семьей.
My father and brother work here. The whole family is here. We like to work here, and most importantly, we have work here in Issyk. IBRAHIM ARSAMAKOV doesn't visit his historical homeland very often. To numerous questions why, he responds with laughter, explaining that back home, Ingushes are labeled as Kazakhs. That is somewhat true. After all, his real homeland is Kazakhstan. IBRAHIM ARSAMAKOV also donates to charities, to veterans, and the elderly. He's respected not only for his honesty and fairness, but also for his love for his job and the land where he grew up.
A veteran of World War II, Zhakia Musatayev, believes that independence is the greatest achievement for any nation. The 92-year-old resident of Karkarali is writing a book portraying heroism of the soldiers during the World War II, and he is confident that this memory will be an example to appreciate and preserve the independence of Kazakhstan.
Zhakia Musatayev has marched half of the continent during the World War II with the artillery battalion. He took part in the liberation of Russia and Ukraine. He was wounded in the leg during the transition of the Dnieper. Decades later, Zhakia is reliving those days in his stories that he will pass on to his children. Independence is the key to a peaceful sky over our heads. This is something that we could not achieve just yesterday. Now the young people must preserve this independence. It is in their hands. We were taught to be brave, and thanks to this, we became better. Zhakia Musatayev is one of the 10 veterans of the war who live now in a small Karkarali. Local authorities try to pay their dues to war veterans. We constantly monitor their social status and provide all the assistance to ensure they live in good conditions. Musatayev spends almost all of his free time on writing memoirs. He believes that memoirs of the war will be a good edification for the young generation.
The pilots of the Su-27 crew that crashed were posthumously awarded for their courage and selflessness. Minister of Defense Imangalitis Magomedov handed over the medals to their mothers. On September 23rd, their plane crashed near the Zhambyl village in Almaty region. The pilots did everything possible to fly the aircraft away from the village.
Указом главы государства они награждены орденом Айбан.
Colonels Yerlan Nawanov and Denis Gorbunov were posthumously awarded with the IBRAHIM Orders of Second Degree by the decree of the President for the demonstrated courage and selflessness while carrying out their military and service duties.
Но слава государства держится на плечах именно таких личностей.
Almaty Metro celebrated its 20 millionth passenger. Now winner Anna Chebekova will use the metro for free for the whole year. On this day, she went to school to support her daughter, who participated in the mathematical contest. Subway employees were waiting for the 20 millionth passenger near the chart site at all 7 stations in the morning. The deputy mayor of Almaty presented a pass to the annual travel and a plasma TV to her. Yuri Ilyin congratulated the passenger and noted that the subway, which was opened 3 years ago by the head of the state, has become increasingly popular among Almaty residents and visitors of the city. Now the metro is the fastest and most environmentally friendly form of public transport in Almaty. The 2 new stations, Sayran and Moscow, are almost ready and will be open by the end of 2014 as planned.
Today I was going home from work and was going to pick up my child, and when I was passing through the turnstile, I was told that I just became a celebrity. I was the 20 millionth passenger. I'm very happy.
Well-known Kazakh traveler ARSAMAKOV will go to 9 countries in support of the Expo 2017 international exhibition that will be held in Kazakhstan. His itinerary will include such countries as Saudi Arabia, Oman, Comoros and Seychelles, Madagascar, Mauritius, Maldives, Sri Lanka and India. The expedition will start on December 25th and 4 people will take part in it. The tour will last for 45 days. This is not the first of such a trip. Earlier this year, ARSAMAKOV made a 120-day tour of 26 states of the world. In 2015, he plans to continue his mission. The traveler visited 115 countries.
Если я даже смогу убедить хоть одну страну,
if I'm able to get 1 tourist to visit Kazakhstan, it will mean that I haven't wasted my time and my energy is not in vain.
не зря тратил время и энергию.
These were the main news for the past week on Kazakh TV. You're watching the news summary from Kazakhstan, my home country. I'm Zhana Sagandikova. I'll see you next year. Goodbye.